Chapter 1. After the fire, I was admitted to the intensive care unit. When I woke up, I had amnesia. My memory had stopped in my college years, but I discovered my childhood friend had become my husband. This childhood friend of mine was a man of few words and many deeds, handsome and wealthy. I only remembered that he despised me, yet now he was devoted to a beautiful and gentle teacher. Perfectly fine by me. The senior I had a crush on in college was also a teacher at the same school. "Mr. Sterling, give me a ride. I'm going to see my lover too." The notoriously ruthless man's face darkened, and he carried me back to our room to teach me a lesson. I was furious. He was allowed to cheat, but I wasn't allowed to find another man. A divorce, but when I threw the divorce papers in his face, he panicked. Gone was his usual cold arrogance as he knelt before me, begging, "Honey, I was wrong." Chapter 1. Nina is so innocent. She's no match for your schemes, Vivian. Why are you so vicious, driving her to suicide? Fire put it out. "Vivian, get out of there." A man's roars echoed in my ears, followed by a large, burning picture frame hurtling toward me. I snapped my eyes open in terror. My vision was filled with a stark white, and the smell of antiseptic assaulted my nostrils. Ouch, my head throbbed. I reached up and felt several layers of gauze wrapped around it. What happened to me? Why am I in a hospital? Wasn't I on my way to confess my feelings to my senior? "Mrs. Sterling, you're awake?" A middle-aged woman holding a water pitcher cried out when she saw me, then fumbled with her phone to send a message. But, "Mrs. Sterling, who?" I glanced around the room. I was the only one here. "Excuse me, who are you, and why am I in the hospital?" I asked, looking at the woman who was now crying with joy. "Ma'am, it's me, Mrs. Davison. Don't you remember me? You've been unconscious for a week. You were injured after an argument with Mr. Sterling." "This Mr. Sterling you speak of is?" I asked cautiously. "Your husband, Ethan Sterling. Ma'am, you don't even remember your husband." Mrs. Davison looked utterly shocked and turned to make a phone call. My head started to buzz. "Ethan Sterling? That cold and harsh man, Ethan Sterling, is my husband." Impossible seeing the woman who called herself Mrs. Davison step away to make a call. I grabbed my phone, threw on a coat, and snuck out of the hospital. The moment I was outside, I called my mom. I knew Ethan, but I'd never seen this Mrs. Davison before. "Mom, I ran into a scammer at the hospital. She even said I was married to Ethan Sterling." Before I could finish, my mom cut in. "Vivian, your father and I are traveling in Europe. If you have any problems, just talk things over with Ethan. Don't fight, okay?" "Oh honey, I'm coming." "All right, your dad is calling me. I have to go." The screen went dark, and in the reflection, I saw my own face, looking much more weathered. I gasped and found a mirror to get a better look. The sight made me collapse to the ground. That woman in the mirror with dry hair, rough skin, and a sallow complexion was me. To be ugly is a fate worse than death for me. I couldn't accept it, slumping weakly against a flower bed. "Vivian!" A deep, male voice called out. Did it sound angry? I slowly looked up and saw a man in a high-end black suit. He had deep-set features and pale skin. His dark eyes were as cold as ever, looking as if they could see right through me. "Ethan Sterling, Chapter 2, I looked him over carefully, confirming it was indeed Ethan Sterling. But how did he get even more mature and handsome? What new tantrum are you throwing now? Burning down the art studio was bad enough, and now you're running around?" he said coldly as he approached. He was always so pretentious and aloof, barely bothering to speak to me. And now he was scolding me? My mom and Ethan's mother were best friends. He was 2 years older than me, and we grew up together, attending the same middle school, high school, and even the same university. But we were never close. He was cold and quiet, always saying he hated chatty people like me. Well, I hated him too. His dark eyes swept over me, and I subconsciously lowered my head. Of course, I was still a little scared of him, but I couldn't figure it out. How did I end up as Ethan Sterling's wife? Just then, Mrs. Davison hurried over, standing timidly before him. "Sir, I'm so sorry. I didn't notice Mrs. Sterling had run out." I stood up, about to ask what was going on, when a wave of dizziness hit me. I fainted right into Ethan's arms. When I woke up, I was in a lavishly decorated mansion. Staring at the wedding photo that took up an entire wall, I confirmed it. I was married, but I had amnesia. My memory stuck back in my college days. In the wedding photo, I was beaming with happiness, my eyes filled with nothing but Ethan, looking like I could eat him up. But that couldn't be right. The person I liked was my university senior, Leo Fielding. Leo was gentle and handsome, an outstanding student, and the university's campus heartthrob. He was a god to all the female students, including me. I had a crush on him ever since I started college, but never found the chance to confess. So why was I married to Ethan? The thought of Ethan's cold face and his bone-chilling dark eyes sent shivers down my spine. I would marry anyone but Ethan Sterling. Ma'am, you're awake? Would you like something to eat? Just as I was lost in thought, Mrs. Davison came in with a tray of food. Seeing her, my eyes lit up. I pulled her over and asked about the past few years, but she didn't know much either. She had only started working for the Sterlings after their wedding. All she knew was that I married Ethan right after graduation, and this was our 3rd year. She said our relationship had always been lukewarm. I was the one who was always clinging to Ethan, but things were relatively normal. We never fought. But everything changed when Nina Chaucer appeared. Nina, the daughter of Ethan's late mentor. Ma'am, you have no idea. You were acting like you'd gone crazy back then, just because Mr. Sterling had one dinner with Miss Chaucer. You went to her school with a knife and drove her to jump into the sea. Thankfully, Mr. Sterling got there in time and saved her, Mrs. Davison said with a serious expression. Nina Chaucer. Why does that name sound familiar? I thought for a moment and my pupils contracted. Nina, wasn't that Leo's girlfriend? How did Nina get involved with Ethan now? Wait, Mrs. D, did you just say I attacked someone with a knife and forced them to jump into the sea? I snapped back to reality, pointing at my own face in disbelief. Yes. Even if Ethan was decent-looking, I wouldn't go so far as to attack someone with a knife for him, would I? Pushing them to their death? It's not like he's the only man in the world, especially not Ethan. That's not all. After that, you became a different person. You had to take sleeping pills every night, you were in and out of the hospital, and you were just not yourself, Mrs. Davison's voice grew softer, her eyes filling with sympathy. I paused while eating my snack, frowning. So Ethan likes Nina? Mrs. Davison didn't say anything, but I saw the answer in her eyes. Ethan liked Nina, not me. Whatever. I didn't like Ethan anyway, then how did I lose my? Before I could finish, a car horn sounded from outside the mansion. Chapter 3, Mrs. Davison rushed to the window and I followed her. The first thing I saw was a new model Rolls-Royce I'd never seen before. My eyes lit up. Driving that car would definitely turn heads. Ma'am, please don't be angry. Mr. Sterling might just be bringing Miss Chaucer over for dinner. Mrs. Davison turned to me, her voice softening. I was confused. Angry about what? My gaze shifted from the luxury car to the woman standing next to Ethan. She wore a long, pristine white dress. Her fair face was flushed, a smile playing on her lips. She looked clean and utterly harmless. So this was Nina Chaucer. I'd only heard rumors at school that she was beautiful and Leo's girlfriend. Seeing her now, she was indeed pretty. Prettier than the current me. But seeing her standing next to Ethan, I felt a tightness in my chest, a deep discomfort. Damn it, did the old me actually like Ethan? The next second, I stamped out that thought. Me like Ethan? Impossible, absolutely impossible, ma'am. It's better if you don't go out just yet. Mrs. Davison started to say as she turned to me, but I had already opened the door and was striding out, blocking the pair as they entered the living room. The moment Nina saw me, she recoiled as if she'd seen a monster, hiding behind Ethan. Ethan's tall frame shielded her completely. His cold eyes swept over me briefly. Vivian, don't scare Nina, he said in a low voice. Then he turned to Nina, comforting her gently. It's okay, Nina, don't mind her. I watched the two of them looking at each other with such deep affection and sighed. My marriage with Ethan was in name only anyway. It would be better, too. Your marriage? I broke into a brilliant smile, very solemnly placed their hands together, and announced loudly, I approve. Everyone present stared blankly. They all knew I loved Ethan, that I was madly, obsessively in love with him. And of course, Ethan knew it too. But they couldn't believe I was now willing to hand him over to someone else. Vivian, stop messing around. I brought Nina here so you could apologize. Apologize to her, and then you two can get along. Let's not bring up the past again. Ethan quickly pulled his hand away from Nina's and spoke with gravity. Make me apologize? I thought about it and figured it was probably right. I did drive someone to jump into the sea, so an apology was in order. I'm so sorry, Nina. It was my fault. I apologize. I stepped forward and took Nina's hand, my face full of remorse. I wasn't even holding it tightly, but Nina reacted as if she'd seen a ghost, violently shaking my hand off. She stumbled backward and fell. Thud. Nina landed on the floor. She looked up, her eyes instantly reddening, looking pitiful and lovely. Vivian, I won't do it again. I won't come looking for Brother E anymore. Please stop pushing me. Nina burst into tears, the tip of her delicate nose turning red, looking utterly wronged and pathetic. Vivian, don't go too far. Ethan's eyes turned cold as he snapped at me. Brother E, don't blame her, I'll just go. I won't come back again. Nina scrambled up from the floor and ran out, her eyes red. Ethan shot me a cold glare. Vivian, I'll deal with you when I get back. With that, he chased after her without a second's hesitation. Watching Ethan's retreating back, I suddenly felt my eyes sting. Ma'am, why are you crying? Chapter 4, Mrs. Davison frantically pulled out a tissue and handed it to me. Crying. I touched the corner of my eye and felt the dampness of a tear on my fingertip. I froze for a second. Was I really crying? Why? Ma'am, you don't have to pretend to be strong. If you're willing to soften up a little, Mr. Sterling will come back to you, Mrs. Davison said sympathetically, her voice gentle. I took the tissue and wiped away the tear. Mrs. D, I'm fine. Maybe my tear ducts are just overactive, I said earnestly. Mrs. D, I said, touching my rough cheek. Yes, ma'am, she replied quickly. Ethan is pretty rich now, right? A sly smile slowly spread across my face, scaring Mrs. Davison so much that she took 2 steps back. Yes. For the rest of the afternoon, Ethan's phone was bombarded with notifications of transactions, but he only glanced at them without asking any questions. That evening, after a full body spa treatment, I returned home leading several delivery guys. Take all of this to the second room on the second floor. I took off my sunglasses, flicked my now smooth long hair, and directed them with a satisfied smile, a smirk on my red lips. I had spent the entire afternoon shopping, and I felt utterly refreshed. When Mrs. Davison saw me, she rushed over. I thought Ethan had found out I'd been spending his money and sent her to scold me, so I turned to run. But instead, she stopped me and said, Ma'am, Mr. Sterling is going on a business trip for a few days. He won't be coming back. A business trip? Perfect otherwise, I wouldn't have known how to face him. Back in school, I used to go out of my way to avoid him. Having to share a bed with him would have been the death of me. The days Ethan was away were heavenly. My skin became fairer and more moisturized, my hair regained its smoothness, and even my appetite improved. That night, I was comfortably lounging on the sofa, scrolling through my social media feed. A casual swipe brought up an elegant and refined profile. Wasn't that my senior? I checked who posted it and saw it was a recommendation from Nina. I didn't remember adding her, but it didn't matter. I wanted to see Leo. After all, I'd had a crush on him for 2 years. I dressed up meticulously and hurried to the bar from the location tag on the post. It was noisy inside, the air thick with the smell of alcohol. I scanned the crowd and spotted Leo Fielding immediately. He was exceptionally tall and strikingly handsome. Just as I remembered, he favored a white shirt, black pants, and black-rimmed glasses, exuding a gentle and classy aura. That cold man, Ethan, couldn't compare at all. I froze. Why was I thinking about Ethan again? Vivian, a clear male voice called out. I snapped back to reality and looked up to see that Leo was standing in front of me. Senior, with my crush suddenly in front of me, my face flushed crimson. I was flustered, stumbling backward 2 steps and losing my balance. Leo quickly reached out, catching my waist and pulling me into his arms. I stiffened. This was the first time I'd ever been this close to him. I was too scared to move. Vivian, a voice filled with fury roared through the bar. My body went rigid. I slowly turned my head toward the sound. Standing not far away, Ethan's eyes were bloodshot. His usually impassive and aloof face was now colder than I'd ever seen it. His dark eyes were like daggers, fixed on Leo's hand holding me. I'm so dead. Chapter 5, Under the man's sharp gaze, I instinctively pushed Leo away. You've got some nerve, Vivian. Leo is the most handsome teacher at our school, and you managed to hook him too. I remember you had a crush on him in college, didn't you? You're not still hung up on him, are you? Nina, standing beside Ethan, sneered. Her words ignited Ethan's fury. Leo frowned at her comment and shot her a glare. I was completely baffled. Ethan likes Nina, and Leo likes Nina too. How did I get stuck in the middle of this trio? Vivian, come here, Ethan commanded. Lost in my confusion, I didn't move. Ethan's anger flared, and he strode forward, hoisting me over his shoulder and carrying me out of the bar. Suddenly suspended in the air, I struggled, pounding on his back. "Ah, put me down, Ethan," I yelled nervously. Smack! Ethan slapped me squarely on the butt. The sound was surprisingly crisp. My head buzzed. A numbing sensation spread from my rear all the way to my head, and my face turned beet red. That bastard Ethan, he actually spanked me in front of all these people. Just wait until we get home. I'll teach you a proper lesson then. Ethan seemed furious, his words bitten out one by one. As soon as we got home, Ethan roughly threw me onto the bed. I tried to get up, but he pushed me back down, pressing so hard my back was pinned against the soft mattress. Seeing his bloodshot eyes, a chill ran down my spine. "Let's talk this out. My senior and I didn't do anything," I said, trying to placate him with a smile. But Ethan didn't seem to hear me. His eyes were blazing with anger. He reached up, yanked off his tie, and roughly bound my hands with it. I struggled, but it was no use. Ethan stared at me as he unbuttoned the top few buttons of his shirt. His gaze was intensely predatory. I glanced up at him and was stunned by his physique. His skin was pale, and he had clearly defined abs. His body was better than a model's, and he was incredibly strong, pinning me down with just one hand. Watching him advance, I couldn't help but tremble, afraid he might just strangle me with one hand. "Ethan, my dear Ethan, we're childhood friends, we grew up together. Don't do anything rash," I called out to him a few times, but he didn't react. Desperate, I brought up his mother. "If you do this to me, I'll tell Auntie Alina on you, tell on me. You were about to cheat on me, my mom wouldn't approve of that even if she knew," Ethan roared. Before I could say another word, Ethan's mouth was on mine. Faced with a fierce and frantic kiss, my eyes widened in shock. Ethan was kissing me? My hands were tied so I could only squirm and struggle, but I didn't expect that would only provoke him further. Ethan, breathing heavily, gripped my chin. His voice was low and hoarse. "If you move again, I'll take you right now. Ethan, are you crazy? Why are you kissing me?" Finally able to breathe, I glared at him with red-rimmed eyes. The thought of my first kiss being stolen by someone like him made me angrier, and tears welled up. "Ethan, you pervert hooligan lecher. I thought of you as a friend, and you're trying to force yourself on me," my voice trembled. Seeing me cry, Ethan froze for a moment. "What are you crying for? It's not the first time. You used to cling to me every day, begging for it. Why are you playing innocent now?" Realization dawned on Ethan's face. He gripped my chin and warned, "Don't think crying will get you out of this. If I ever find out you've gone to see that first love of yours again, I'll spank your butt raw." What first love? I never even confessed, seeing my eyes red from crying. Ethan fought back his anger, untied the tie from my hands, and wiped away my tears. He gave me a soft kiss on the lips. "Stop crying. Since you're not in the mood tonight, I won't force you." His voice was deep and magnetic. Was he trying to soothe me? Chapter 6. After he spoke, Ethan went into the bathroom. He stayed in there for an hour before coming out. The sound of the bathroom door opening made me flinch. I quickly wrapped the blanket tightly around myself. Ethan's gaze darkened slightly as he looked at the cocoon on the bed. He dried his hair and walked straight to the bed, lifting the covers and slipping in beside me. Click. The light went out, plunging the bedroom into darkness. Hearing no movement from his side, I gradually relaxed, and sleepiness began to creep over me. The next day, I opened my eyes to the sight of a man's prominent, sexy Adam's apple. Still drowsy, my eyes shot wide open. I thought Ethan had crossed the line and was about to yell at him, but when I looked up, I realized I was the one who had crossed the line. My thigh was draped right over his waist. Just as I imagined, Ethan slept perfectly straight. The only thing in disarray was his bathrobe, which I had kicked open. My gaze drifted down below his waist for a second before I looked back at his face. What I saw nearly gave me a heart attack. Ethan had been awake for who knows how long. His serene, misty eyes were fixed on me. He said nothing, but my face flushed and my heart began to pound. I'd never felt this way, not even when I saw Leo, my crush of 2 years. I'm going to go wash up. I scrambled out of bed and hurried into the bathroom. I still couldn't accept that I was married to Ethan. But if he didn't love me, why did he marry me? Before I could figure it out, Nina Chaucer showed up at our door. I had just gotten back from the mall that day. As soon as I walked in, I heard a heated argument. "You lowly servant," Nina raised her hand and slapped Mrs. Davison across the face, all traces of her previous innocent demeanor gone. She glared at Mrs. Davison, her face contorted with rage. "This is a limited edition dress brother E bought for me. You're going to pay for it." Thud. The shopping bags slipped from my hands. I stood frozen in place, having witnessed the whole thing. Wait, was this the same gentle, virtuous Little Miss Innocent Nina? Seeing Mrs. Davison kneeling on the floor, I frowned, suppressed my anger, and went to help her up. The moment Mrs. Davison saw me, her eyes reddened. She frantically explained, "Ma'am, it really wasn't my fault. Miss Chaucer asked for coffee, so I made her a cup. I don't know how, but she spilled it on her dress herself, and now she's demanding I pay for it. She was just a housekeeper, with a daughter to support through school. Where would she get the money to pay Nina back? It's all right, Mrs. D, I'll handle this." I saw her trembling and quickly reassured her. Mrs. Davison's expression eased a little. "Vivian, are you going to defend this servant? Let me tell you, this dress is limited edition. She has to pay me back today, otherwise I'll have Brother E fire her," Nina declared arrogantly. I glanced at the coffee-stained dress, then bent down and pulled a new dress out of one of my shopping bags. "That one of yours is last year's limited edition. This is the new one for this year. How about I give you this one?" I said, my red lips curling into a slight smile, my eyes narrowed. Nina snatched the dress and examined it carefully, confirming it was this year's new model. "Satisfied?" I asked with a smile. "It's acceptable," Nina replied, still haughty. Slap without another word, I slapped her across the face. Before she could react, I kicked her in the knee, forcing her to the ground. "This is the latest limited edition dress that I bought. You got it dirty just by touching it. You're going to pay for it," I beamed at the stunned Nina. Nina's face turned green with rage. "Vivian, I'm going to tell Brother E you hit me," Nina screamed, her eyes red. "Go ahead, see if Ethan helps you," I said, unfazed. Nina sneered. "Vivian, I'm starting to realize how shameless you are. You burned down Brother E's mother's art studio, and you can still stay in the Sterling house so nonchalantly. That studio was his mother's legacy." "What art studio? What legacy? What are you talking about?" I was completely lost. But as I tried to recall, my head started to buzz. Chapter 7. Seeing Nina advance on me, Mrs. Davison quickly stepped in front of me, pleading in a soft voice. "Miss Chaucer, Mrs. Sterling doesn't remember what happened before. Please don't push her." Nina laughed coldly. "Doesn't remember? No wonder. Causing such a disaster and still living so comfortably in the Sterling home. So it's amnesia." Nina shoved Mrs. Davison aside and walked up to me, her voice chilling. "But does losing your memory erase the mistakes you've made? Vivian, you're disgusting. Do you have any idea that you destroyed the only connection Brother E had to his mother's memory?" Nina's words pierced my heart, one by one. "What nonsense are you talking about? How could I possibly burn down Auntie Aliner's studio? I suggest you divorce Brother E immediately. He doesn't like you, he doesn't love you, and after what you've done, he'll never forgive you," Nina said, her eyes turning cold. She advanced, and I kept backing away. Seeing my eyes redden, Mrs. Davison rushed forward and pushed Nina away. "Miss Chaucer, don't talk nonsense." Mr. Sterling never blamed his wife. He even forbade anyone from mentioning the studio fire. "Please stop making things up," Mrs. Davison said, annoyed. Nina sneered. "That's right. It's already burned down. What good would bringing it up do? Vivian, if you have any conscience left, divorce Brother E. Stop clinging to him. Your marriage to him was never what he wanted in the first place. If it weren't for his mother's dying wish, you two would never have gotten married. He doesn't love you at all," Nina shouted. My eyes fell, my mind a chaotic mess. Mrs. Davison, at her wit's end, finally pushed Nina out of the mansion. "Mrs. D, is what she said true? Did Auntie Alina really?" My voice choked, and I couldn't finish the sentence. "After my parents, Auntie Alina was the kindest person to me. But she..." Mrs. Davison nodded. I couldn't believe it. It wasn't until I went to the cemetery and saw Auntie Alina's tombstone that I accepted she was gone and had been for 3 years. When I returned home, I was still in a daze. But when I saw the art studio, burned to a mere skeleton with only scattered objects remaining, I froze again. "Mrs. Davison saw me standing before the ruins and quickly pulled me back into the living room. Was the studio burned down by me? I trailed off. Auntie Alina loved to paint. She would spend her free time in the studio, which was filled with her artwork. Those paintings might have been the only mementos she left for Ethan, and the me before my amnesia had destroyed it all with a fire. Auntie Alina was so good to me. No matter how much I disliked Ethan, I could never do something like that, but from what Mrs. Davison, Nina, and even Ethan had said, it was indeed my doing. What on earth happened back then that would make me burn down Auntie Alina's studio? Ma'am, it's all right. Mr. Sterling doesn't blame you. You don't have to feel guilty. Seeing me so lost and devastated, Mrs. Davison quickly tried to comfort me. Mrs. D, I'm not feeling well. I'm going upstairs, I said quietly, my head bowed. Okay. But I hadn't been lying down for long before Ethan came back. Vivian, why did you hit Nina? Didn't I tell you not to cause trouble? Her father is gone. Can't you just cut her some slack? As soon as he returned, he started scolding me as I lay on the bed. Let's get a divorce. Chapter 8, I said gravely. Our marriage was a mistake from the start. Ethan froze. What did you say? His eyes grew cold. City Hall probably isn't closed yet. I got out of bed, put on my shoes and clothes, found my documents, and tried to pull Ethan downstairs. Ethan shook my hand off. Vivian, don't push your luck. Don't think bringing up divorce means I'll tolerate anything from you. With that, he snatched the documents from my hand and threw them into a corner. Mrs. Davison jumped in fright. It was the first time she had seen Ethan so angry, and me too. In my memory, Ethan was always calm and composed, rarely exploding like this. Ethan frowned, his voice filled with rage. Are you divorcing me because of that Leo Fielding? Do you like him so much that you want to divorce me immediately? Vivian, don't go too far. Ethan's eyes were bloodshot with anger. I sat up in bed and turned to him, my eyes red and my voice choked with emotion. I know everything, Ethan, I'm sorry. I know saying this won't change anything, but I really wouldn't have burned Auntie's studio. Just wait, I'll give you an explanation, I said, looking up at him seriously. Seeing Ethan's confused expression, Mrs. Davison quickly explained everything that had happened. Ethan turned and glanced at me in the room, then snapped at her. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I did, but you didn't believe me. You insisted that Mrs. Sterling was faking her illness to trick you, Mrs. Davison said quietly. Ethan let out a long breath and composed himself. All right, you can go now. I'll handle things here. With that, he entered the bedroom and closed the door. Ethan looked at me without speaking. I knew my place in Ethan's heart was as insignificant as dust. He used to not even deign to look at me, and now he had only married me out of obligation. I know we only got married to honor Auntie's dying wish. I'm willing to do you still like Leo Fielding? Ethan interrupted, suppressing his anger. What does this have to do with my senior? I was confused. Vivian, you need to remember, whether you have amnesia or not, you are my wife now, not Leo Fielding's. Ethan pinned me to the bed, his palm pressing against my collarbone, his voice chillingly cold. Staring at his handsome face, so close to mine, I was momentarily at a loss. Ethan, could you loosen up a bit? I glanced up at him, my cheeks flushing as I whispered. Ethan's Adam's apple bobbed. Vivian, you're my wife now. Don't think about other men, he said, his voice softening. His gaze swept over my lips, and ripples formed in his dark pupils. He reached up to touch my face, his warm palm gently caressing my cheek. His lips parted, and he leaned down to kiss me. I pushed against his chest with both hands, using the last shred of my rationality to say, "Stop." He kissed me again, the soft, sticky sound of it filling the air. It doesn't matter if you don't remember. Your body remembers me. As if addicted, Ethan kissed me again. My mind went blank, the last of my reason shattering in an instant. The sound of a heartbeat echoed in the room. I couldn't tell if it was his or mine. Chapter 9. After the intimate moment, I curled up in the blankets, flushed from head to toe and filled with regret. I actually slept with Ethan. For the next few days, I couldn't bring myself to look him in the eye. But Ethan seemed to be doing it on purpose, staying home from work and watching me all day long. In the morning, I ate breakfast awkwardly under his watchful gaze. Soon, his phone rang. It was Nina. Okay, I'll be right there. I didn't know what Nina said to him, but he stopped staring at me, got up, and left, probably to find her at the university. I immediately ran out, opened the car door, and sat down beside him. "Mr. Sterling, give me a ride. I'm going to the university too," I said with a smile. Ethan's face instantly darkened. "Trying to find that first love of yours again. Get out, stay home where you belong," he said, his eyes cold and his brow furrowed. I glanced at his stern face and flinched, but then I thought about how he was going to see Nina while restricting my movements. I retorted indignantly, "Why can you go see Nina, but I can't leave the house? You go see your lover, and I'll go see my..." I felt the temperature drop beside me, and my voice trailed off. "Get out," Ethan said, enunciating each word. Sensing he was truly angry, I quickly got out of the car. I thought he would just leave me and go straight to Nina, but he got out of the car too and called her on his phone. "Nina, I don't think I can go with you to pay respects to my mentor today, but I'll arrange for someone to take you to the cemetery," Ethan said, glancing at me as he spoke to Nina on the phone. I was stunned. So Ethan was going to pay respects to Nina's father. "Is it because of Vivian? Is she not letting you come?" "Brother E, I'm sorry, I must have upset her." Nina's tearful voice came through the phone. She sounded so wronged. I frowned, and the guilt I had just started to feel vanished instantly. "No, that's not it. I have something to do, I have to go," Ethan said and hung up. "You should go, it's not a small matter," I urged. "Don't play tricks on me. The moment I leave, you'll go see Leo Fielding. Don't even think about it." Ethan's dark eyes narrowed, staring straight at me as if he could see right through me. He was right. That was my plan. I had asked Mrs. Davison, and she said she saw my senior near the house before the fire that day. Maybe he knew something about what happened, but Ethan meant what he said. He didn't let me leave the house, following me around for 3 straight days. He even held me when we slept, as if he was afraid I would run away. Midnight. The bedroom was dark and quiet, but I couldn't sleep. "Ethan, you're holding me too tight," I whispered, my face red. Ethan loosened his arms but didn't let go completely. He leaned down and kissed my forehead, his voice deep and raspy. "Go to sleep." The spot he kissed felt warm, my mind went blank and my heart pounded like a drum. This time I heard it clearly. The heartbeat was mine. I touched my hot cheek and rested my forehead against Ethan's chest, a strange sense of security washing over me. I suddenly realized, I don't think I mind being in Ethan's arms, but this comfortable peace didn't last long. Nina called again, but it wasn't her calling. It was a doctor using her phone. "Hello, is this Mr. Sterling? Could you please come to the hospital? Miss Chaucer has had an accident." Chapter 10, Nina had slit her wrists. They said she lost a lot of blood, but thankfully, her roommate found her in time and got her to the hospital. She was going to be okay. When Ethan heard the news, he rushed to the hospital immediately. I watched his hurried figure from the second-floor window, a strange sadness in my heart, but I didn't dwell on it. I sent Mrs. Davison on an errand and then headed to the university. "Hello, excuse me, is Leo Fielding here?" I found my senior's office and peeked inside, but I didn't see him. I asked a female teacher sitting near the door. "Vivian?" A man's voice came from behind me, in a coffee shop across from the campus. "Senior, I came today to ask you about something. I heard you were at my house on my birthday. Did you see anything when the art studio caught fire?" Seeing Leo hesitate, I explained, "I lost my memory after the fire. I don't remember anything that happened before." "Senior, I know this is a bit forward, but this is really important to me. If you know anything, could you please tell me?" Leo was silent for a moment. "The day of the fire, I did see Nina Chaucer carrying a can of gasoline toward the studio. And," Leo paused, "lately, Nina seems to be auctioning off some paintings. It seems the studio fire and Nina are definitely connected," I said, looking at Leo. I tentatively asked the question that had been on my mind for so long. "Senior, why did you and Nina break up?" Leo sighed deeply. "We broke up 3 years ago. I'm only telling you this because I don't want to see her get in any deeper." With that, he sent me a video that was circulating in the auction market. The paintings in the video were unmistakably Auntie Aliner's. Even the background was her studio. When Auntie Aliner was alive, she was a famous painter in the country. After her death, the value of her work soared. Even the simplest piece was worth millions. Meanwhile, at the hospital with Nina, Ethan's phone buzzed. He received a message from an anonymous number. It was a photo of Vivian having coffee with Leo Fielding. His face instantly darkened, his eyes turning cold. Ethan grabbed his coat and headed for the door. Nina saw him and quickly grabbed his hand. "Brother E, don't go," she said, her eyes red and full of grievance. Ethan pulled his hand away gently. "Nina, you stay here and rest. I have something very important to do." With that, he left without a second glance. Seeing Ethan really leave, Nina's expression changed. She had gone through all the trouble of faking an injury to get him here, and now Vivian had called him away again. Nina was furious. She vented her anger by smashing all the gifts Ethan had brought onto the floor. "Vivian, I will not lose Brother E is mine." Nina clenched her fists, her eyes filled with a cold hatred. When I got home, I noticed it was unusually quiet. Mrs. Davison always greeted me when I came back, but this time she seemed to be out. Confused, I walked in and saw only Ethan sitting on the sofa, drinking red wine with a dark expression on his face. Perhaps sensing my return, he slowly looked up at me, a sharp, cold glint in his deep eyes. I took 2 steps back in fear. "Get back here," his voice was laced with fury. I trembled but reluctantly moved toward him. He grabbed my hand, pulled me into his lap, and kissed me fiercely. "You dare to lie to me? Today, I'll show you exactly who you belong to." Chapter 11. The aroma of wine filled my mouth, making my head spin. By the time I came to my senses, Ethan had already carried me to the bedroom. "Ethan, don't do anything rash," I said nervously. "You're the one who was being rash. You put on makeup today just to go on a date with another man. Vivian, do you even see me as your real husband?" Ethan's eyes blazed with anger. "What date? My senior and I were just having coffee, that's all." As I spoke, it dawned on me. "You had me followed," I demanded, frowning. "If I hadn't, how would I have known you snuck out to see that first love of yours?" Ethan roared. "And what about you? What right do you have to say that to me? You can go see Nina, but I can't see Leo." I shot back, my eyes turning red as a sharp pain pierced my heart. Seeing me cry, Ethan panicked. "Nina and I didn't do anything. I was just visiting her as a friend. Don't cry," he said softly, quickly wiping away my tears. "Well, I was just visiting my senior as a friend too." I shoved him away, furious. Ethan had never taken me seriously. The moment he heard Nina was in the hospital, he ran to her without a second thought for my feelings. The more I thought about it, the more my heart ached, as if a knife were twisting inside it. Ethan probably didn't love me at all, yet here I was like a fool, hopelessly falling for him. "Don't cry. I was wrong. I won't have anyone follow you anymore, and I won't misunderstand you again," Ethan said, pulling me into his arms and kissing my cheek, trying to soothe me. Hearing that, I finally calmed down. "You promise," I said, turning to look at him. "I promise," he replied. "But I'm still angry, and you're going to have to help me cool down." He pushed me back onto the bed and kissed me fiercely, and when that wasn't enough, he bit my collarbone hard. The next morning, I stared at the bite marks all over my body in the mirror, my mind blank and my face burning hot. Ethan was a madman. How was I supposed to go out in public like this? "I'm going to the hospital today," Ethan said as he got dressed. "Good, I'll go with you. I've been wanting to have a good chat with Nina, to give her some guidance," I said with a smile. Ethan glanced at me but said nothing, and he took me to the hospital. Nina became particularly agitated when she saw me, especially when she noticed the love bite on my neck. A cold glint flashed in her eyes. She shot me a glare, but then she turned to Ethan with a pitiful look, her eyes red as she complained, "Brother E, why did you bring her here?" "Don't worry, Nina, I won't hurt you," I said, glancing at her. I noticed her complexion was rosy and she was full of energy. She didn't look like someone who would attempt suicide at all. Her acting was terrible. "Ethan, it's getting late. Why don't you go get us some lunch?" I urged him with a smile. Ethan checked the time, nodded, and left with his phone. The moment Ethan was gone, Nina's true colors showed. She threw a glass of water in my face. "How dare you show your face to me? You wretch, how dare you stay in the Sterling house? Don't you know your presence hurts Ethan? You're the one who burned down the studio. You're the culprit." Nina's eyes were bloodshot, and she looked like she wanted to eat me alive. I wiped the water from my face and couldn't help but laugh. "The culprit? Miss Chaucer, are you talking about yourself?" My eyes turned cold. I slammed my hand down on her shoulder, pinning her. "Not only did you burn down the studio, but you also stole Auntie Aliner's paintings to sell. If Ethan finds out, do you think he'll let you get away with it?" I snarled, my eyes narrowed. Chapter 12. Hearing this, Nina's body visibly stiffened. Her eyes darted around, a look of panic on her face. What are you talking about?" "I didn't do it," she stammered, still trying to deny it. "You didn't. The paintings are in my possession now. Still want to argue? It doesn't matter if you do. When I show them to Ethan and do a little digging, we'll find out who bought them and who sold them." I sneered, my tone light. Nina panicked. "How could you possibly know where the paintings are? I only sold one, and it was to a foreigner who's already left the country. The rest are hidden in an abandoned warehouse in the West Side district. You can't get in without a key," she blurted out, her face red with agitation. "So you hid them in the West Side district?" I mused. Nina instantly realized what she'd done. She shot up from the bed, grabbed me, and slammed me against the wall. "You tricked me. You didn't know where they were at all," she raged. I shoved her off. "With someone like you, do I have a choice but to play some tricks?" I retorted coldly. Nina looked like she was about to explode with anger, but then she heard Ethan's voice outside the door. An idea struck her. She scrambled up from the floor and charged at me. I was startled and tried to dodge, but she slammed herself into the wall right beside me. In an instant, blood was streaming down her forehead. "Vivian, please, I won't go near Brother E again. Please stop hitting me," Nina cried out, her eyes red. I stared at her, completely baffled. By the time I realized what was happening, Ethan had already rushed back in. He saw Nina huddled in the corner, blood on her forehead, and then he turned to me. The anger in his eyes instantly ignited. "No, Ethan, it wasn't me," I said, rushing to explain when I saw the misunderstanding in his eyes. "Nina, she ran into the wall herself. I didn't touch her. Don't get the wrong idea. She ran into the wall herself." "Why would she do that?" Ethan's eyes were filled with suspicion and disbelief. "It's because I found out she burned down the studio and secretly sold Auntie Aliner's paintings. That's why she's trying to frame me," I explained frantically. At this, Nina's crying grew louder. "Brother E, don't blame her. If she really thinks I burned down the studio, then I did. But I don't want to see her ever again. She's terrifying. She keeps trying to force me to admit to things I didn't do, and she hits me when I don't," Nina sobbed, looking like the very picture of terror. The more Ethan listened, the colder his expression became. "It wasn't me, it really wasn't Ethan. You have to believe me." I was so anxious my eyes turned red. I grabbed his hand and begged. "Vivian, you've gone too far. Last time you almost drove Nina to her death, and now you're trying to kill her. Vivian, you've disappointed me so much." Ethan violently shook my hand off and berated me without letting me get a word in. I watched as Ethan helped Nina up, carefully examining her injury, his eyes filled with nothing but her. Nina, seeing Ethan take her side, shot me a triumphant smile when he wasn't looking. My own anger flared. "Ethan, you believe her, but not me." I demanded, my eyes red. Ethan didn't look at me. "Get out," he said coldly. My heart shattered. Ethan had never trusted me, not from the very beginning. He had never loved me. I shot them both one last look, my eyes red, and turned and left the hospital. Since Ethan wouldn't believe me, I would find the evidence to show him. I found the abandoned warehouse in the West Side district that Nina had mentioned. Peering through a window, I saw the paintings stacked inside. I quickly took out my phone and snapped pictures. Then I looked around and saw a security camera on the convenience store across the street. I paid a high price for the footage of Nina moving the paintings. But just as I sent the video, a cloth was pressed over my mouth and nose. "Help! Help!" I struggled for a few moments, but then my strength failed me and I passed out. Chapter 13, the next day, Ethan came home. The moment he walked in, he yelled, "Vivian, come with me to apologize. If you don't, I won't forgive you easily this time." Hearing his voice, Mrs. Davison rushed out. "Sir, isn't Mrs. Sterling with you?" she asked, confused. Ethan froze. "She didn't come back?" "No, she hasn't been back since she left with you," Mrs. Davison said. Ethan took out his phone to call Vivian, but he remembered the battery was dead. He rushed to charge it. As soon as it turned on, a flood of messages appeared. They were all from Vivian. I wasn't lying. It was Nina who stole Auntie Aliner's paintings. She burned down the studio too, followed by several pictures of the paintings. Then there was a video of Nina moving them. He frantically called Vivian, but there was no answer. He panicked and immediately called Nina, but she didn't pick up either. Without wasting a moment, Ethan ran to the hospital. But Nina, who had just been there, was long gone. A quick inquiry revealed that she had checked out right after he left. Ethan questioned the nurse on duty and found out that another nurse had overheard Nina on the phone mentioning West C and that the person was already on the boat. Hearing this, Ethan's hands began to tremble. He had misunderstood Vivian. That madwoman Nina, Ethan was consumed by guilt and fury. Meanwhile, a bucket of cold water was thrown in my face. I gasped, my eyes flying open. I blinked a few times to clear my vision and struggled to sit up. I was on the deck of a dilapidated ship, my hands and feet bound. The sea wind hit my face, carrying a salty, damp smell. I looked around. Several large men were leering at me. Out on the open sea, there was nowhere to run. "Who are you? Why did you tie me up? Don't you know this is illegal? I have money. Let me go and I can pay you," I said, forcing myself to stay calm and trying to persuade them. The men just sneered and looked toward the ship's cabin. As I watched, a woman with a bandaged head emerged. My pupils contracted. I stared at the nonchalant Nina and struggled against my bonds. "Nina, are you crazy? Why did you kidnap me?" I demanded. Nina laughed coldly, then squatted down and yanked my hair. "If I didn't tie you up, you wretched wretch would have already run to tell Brother E. Vivian. What did I ever do to you? You stole my place as Mrs. Sterling, and now you want to steal his love for me too. If it weren't for you, the position of Mrs. Sterling would be mine. Aren't you the wretch here, acting so self-righteous about being the other woman who said the position of Mrs. Sterling was ever yours? Nina, don't you think you're pathetic?" I yanked my head free and sneered at her. "You're the other woman Brother E, and I have known each other since middle school. I'm the one he loves." Nina seemed to snap, her hands flying to my throat, choking me. "The position of Mrs. Sterling is mine, the Sterling fortune is mine. I've been planning this for so long. I can't believe I didn't burn you to death last time, but this time, you're dead for sure." I couldn't breathe. My face turned red, and I instinctively kicked out with my bound legs. The kick sent Nina tumbling to the ground. I gasped for air, breathing in frantically, but Nina was enraged. "You lot, teach this wretched bitch a lesson when you're done. Throw her in the sea," she ordered. One of the burly men grinned lewdly at me. "This one's a real looker. It'd be a waste to kill her. Why don't we have some fun with her first?" Nina sneered. "If you don't mind her being dirty, be my guest." Chapter 14, my eyes filled with terror as the men approached. I scrambled backward until my back hit a wall. I turned to Nina and yelled, "Nina, I've already sent the video of you moving the paintings to Ethan. He knows you've kidnapped me by now if anything happens to me. None of you will get away with this." Nina, who had been watching with amusement, her face changed drastically. She shoved the men aside and stormed over to me, grabbing my collar. "What did you say?" "I said I already sent the video to Ethan. You can't escape, Nina. Don't make things worse for yourself," I pleaded. "Kidnapping is one thing, but murder will land you in prison for life. Do you all want to rot in jail? Do you want to throw your lives away for Nina?" I turned to the men, who had been so arrogant moments before, and tried to reason with them. I glanced at them. Their skin was dark and weathered, the look of fishermen who worked hard for a living. One of them even had a picture of his wife and kids on his phone. Seeing them hesitate, I pressed on. "Think about your families. Could they handle it if you went to prison?" Seeing the men waver, Nina panicked and slapped me across the face. "Shut up," she snarled, then kicked me hard in the stomach. "You don't get to speak here." Pain shot through me, and cold sweat beaded on my forehead. I struggled to breathe. "Miss Chaucer, you didn't say anything about killing someone when you hired us. And now that things have gone south, you need to pay us." "We're done," the leader of the group said with a frown. "You're going to believe her. There's no one for miles out here. No one will ever find out if she dies," Nina yelled. "If you don't believe me, you can check my phone," I gasped, enduring the pain. One of the men heard this and immediately took out the phone he had taken from me. He turned it on and saw the video. The phone was also vibrating nonstop. Nina snatched it from him and saw that Ethan was calling me frantically. Her face went pale, she was clearly panicking. Meanwhile, the moment my phone turned on, Ethan got my location. He and the police were racing toward me in a speedboat. On the ship, the men heard the sirens and started panicking like ants on a hot pan. They quickly jumped into a small boat and sped away. No one wanted to get mixed up in a serious crime. Nina panicked too, her face turning ashen. She saw the approaching speedboat and recognized Ethan on board. "Brother E, I was wrong. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. For my father's sake, please let me go just this once," Nina begged, her eyes red. Ethan glanced at me, saw my swollen cheek, disheveled state, and the blood trickling from the corner of my mouth. His face instantly darkened. "Let you go? Did you think about letting Vivian go when you did this?" Ethan roared. "And you dared to lie to me, you burned down my mother's studio and framed Vivian, and now you've kidnapped her. And you still have the nerve to ask me to let you go." Ethan's eyes were bloodshot as he glared at Nina. The flicker of hope in Nina's eyes died. She knew Ethan didn't love her. She lowered her head, her eyes turning cold. She glanced at me, then grabbed a knife and lunged, pulling me in front of her as a shield, the blade pressed against my neck. "Brother E, I really do love you more than Vivian ever could. Why can't you see that?" Nina screamed. Seeing the knife break the skin on my neck, Ethan panicked. He quickly boarded the ship and slowly approached Nina, his voice softening. "Nina, don't be foolish. It's my fault. Don't hurt Vivian. If you want to kill someone, kill me." I looked at Ethan. His eyes were red and he looked terrified. Seeing Ethan so agitated, Nina laughed. "Brother E, if I'm going down, I'm taking Vivian with me." Nina's eyes turned cold, and she dragged me with her into the deep sea. Chapter 15, Vivian, Ethan screamed. A crushing sense of suffocation washed over me. With my limbs bound, I was helpless as my body plunged into the sea. In the moment before I lost consciousness, I saw Ethan swimming toward me like a madman. I couldn't struggle. I closed my eyes, but as darkness closed in, the memory of the fire flooded my mind, followed by a torrent of all my lost memories. One after another, they came rushing back. Tears streamed down my face. My eyes were filled with despair. I remembered everything. I remembered Ethan believing Nina's lies when she claimed I drove her to jump into the sea. I remembered Ethan going to see a fireworks show with Nina while I was burning up with a high fever. I remembered Ethan painting a beautiful portrait of roses for Nina, a painting he spent 3 months on. And the day of the studio fire became crystal clear. It was my birthday. Ethan had invited countless socialites and tycoons to celebrate with me. But Nina was there too, stealing the show in a blue gown designed by Ethan himself. I had thought the dress was for me. It was for her. I watched from a distance as Nina played the part of the hostess, greeting guests, while I felt like a complete outsider. Seeing them embrace in the middle of the crowd, I left the party with tears in my eyes. Our marriage had started as an obligation to his mother, but over time, we developed feelings for each other. I fell deeply in love with him, but Ethan never once said he loved me. It wasn't until Nina appeared that I realized he never did. Nina led me to Auntie Aliner's studio. "Isn't it beautiful? Brother E painted this for me," Nina said, unveiling a canvas with a brilliant, happy smile. A portrait of roses appeared before me, each petal painted with meticulous care. Ethan had inherited his mother's talent for painting. His work was beautiful. I stared at it, mesmerized, but it wasn't for me. A sharp pain shot through my heart, so intense I couldn't breathe. "Vivian, don't you see? If it weren't for you, Brother E and I would be married by now. Please, have some mercy. Don't be so selfish. Stop getting in our way." "Brother E doesn't love you," Nina said, her eyes filled with pity. Every word she spoke was like an icicle piercing my heart. I cried so hard I couldn't even stand. Looking at the painting, my vision blurred. My heart felt like it was being twisted by a knife, but I still didn't want to divorce Ethan. Even if he didn't love me, I wanted to stay by his side. "I'm sorry, Miss Chaucer, but I can't divorce Ethan. But if he wants a divorce, I'll agree," I said, my head bowed, my eyes lifeless. Hearing this, Nina's expression turned cold and furious. When I wasn't looking, she set the studio on fire. She had already doused the place in gasoline, and the flames erupted instantly, trapping her near the exit. I was surrounded by fire, unable to move. Soon, I heard shouting from outside. "Fire, put it out then," Ethan's roar. "Vivian, get out of there." He burst in with a fire extinguisher, but when faced with the choice between me and Nina, he chose her. He scooped her up and ran out. As I watched his retreating back, my heart died completely. Tears blurred my vision. I looked at him with despair in my eyes, but he never looked back. I loved him so much, but he never saw me. He never trusted me. His heart and eyes were only for Nina. Soon, the flames reached the walls and a burning painting fell toward me. I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I had lost my memory and had become the culprit who burned down the studio. But even after waking up, I hadn't learned my lesson. I had fallen hopelessly in love with Ethan all over again. The sound of his voice made my heart race, but he still showed mercy to Nina. In his eyes, I was always the vicious, scheming woman, while Nina was innocent and pure. I remembered every word he said. He called me vicious. He said I was overbearing, and I remembered his cold, final word, "Get out." As the memories returned, I was consumed by pain, cold sweat beating on my forehead. When I opened my eyes again, I was in the hospital. Chapter 16. "Vivian, you're awake," Ethan, who was sitting by my bed, exclaimed excitedly and rushed out to get a doctor. The doctor gave me a thorough examination, but I didn't react. I just stared downward, my eyes empty and lifeless. I felt so tired, too tired to even speak. "Vivian, thank goodness you're okay," Ethan said, relieved after the doctor confirmed I was fine. He pulled me into a hug, the tension finally leaving his face. I looked up at him, my eyes devoid of any emotion, as if I were looking at a stranger. Ethan froze. "Vivian, what's wrong? Are you hungry?" he asked, confused. I turned my head to look out the window, my gaze calm and distant, and I didn't look at him again. Ethan realized something was wrong and asked the doctor to check me again. When I still wouldn't speak, he asked anxiously, "Why isn't she talking?" The doctor glanced at me and said quietly, "The patient may have been traumatized by the drowning incident. With proper care, she should recover." Hearing this, Ethan finally relaxed. Soon after, I was discharged. Back home, Ethan tried everything to make me smile, but I couldn't. Looking at him just reminded me of Nina, of all the cruel things he had said to me. I couldn't face him. Ethan thought my condition was temporary. Once he saw I was feeling a bit better, he went to the police station to deal with the remaining issues concerning Nina. I watched him drive away from the second-floor window. I slowly turned my gaze back to the bedroom and looked around, my eyes darkening. "It's time for me to go." Ethan didn't get home until late that night. He went straight to the bedroom, and seeing the lights were off, assumed I was asleep. He lay down on the bed, his voice full of remorse. "I'm sorry, Vivian. I misunderstood you. I checked the security footage from the university entrance. It was Nina who had the knife, and she was the one who hurt you." When there was no response, he was silent for a moment before continuing. "Nina confessed to everything. She framed you before, too. I'm sorry, Vivian. I should have trusted you. I should have investigated instead of assuming you hurt her and making you apologize. But she's in jail now. She's gotten the punishment she deserves. Vivian, can you forgive me?" "Vivian?" Ethan reached out to the other side of the bed, but it was cold and empty. He quickly turned on the light. The moment the room was illuminated, he froze. Not only was Vivian not in the bedroom, but everything that belonged to her was gone. Her clothes, shoes, photos, makeup. Ethan frantically searched the entire mansion, but there was no trace of her. The only thing he found was a set of divorce papers on the living room table. Vivian had already signed them. She didn't want anything. She just wanted to leave with nothing and finalize the divorce as soon as possible. Ethan's hands trembled and his phone slipped from his grasp, clattering to the floor. He quickly picked it up and tried to call her, but no one answered. A text message showed that he had been blocked. Furious and helpless, he called Mrs. Davison. "Mrs. D, where's Vivian? You said she was at home," he yelled, his eyes red. "Ma'am, isn't she at home? I even told her I'd see her tomorrow and she agreed. What's wrong? Is she gone?" Mrs. Davison asked, alarmed. "Mrs. D, call her from your phone, quickly," Ethan suddenly realized. A few moments later, Mrs. Davison called him back. "Sir, she's not picking up my call either. What should I do? Should I come back?" Mrs. Davison asked anxiously. Hearing that Vivian wasn't even answering Mrs. Davison's calls, Ethan felt a wave of despair wash over him. He collapsed onto the sofa, defeated. No, don't. Vivian was determined to leave, determined to divorce him. Chapter 17. For the next month, Ethan searched for Vivian. He asked her parents and even went to Leo Fielding's house, but there was no trace of her. It was as if Vivian had vanished from the face of the earth. Ethan finally had to accept it. If someone truly wants to hide, you can't find them no matter what you do. Another month passed. Snow began to fall in Riverton, a heavy snow that blanketed the streets and trees in white. 2 pastries and a coffee, please. The clear, crisp voice made the bakery owner look up. Seeing who it was, he paused and glanced at a news article on his phone. "Hey, aren't you the wife of that Ethan Sterling from Sterling Group?" This video says he's asking you to come back on February 10th to finalize the divorce. Says if you don't, it'll affect his ability to remarry. Is that Ethan Sterling an idiot? Having such a beautiful wife and still getting a divorce. And remarrying, the owner grumbled as he handed me the bag. I just smiled, paid, and left. For the past 2 months, I had found a job as a designer in Riverton. My salary was inconsistent, but it was enough to support myself. Life was good. I had been waiting for these 2 months, waiting for Ethan to let go. Now that he had, it was time to go back and finalize the divorce. Soon, February 10th arrived. It was our wedding anniversary. Looking back, it was all my one-sided affection from the beginning. Ethan had never once said he loved me. I was the one who chased after him, so full of myself. He was clearly annoyed by me, yet I kept throwing myself at him. Thinking about it now, even I was annoyed with myself. Ding dong. I stood before the mansion I had lived in for 3 years and rang the doorbell. Mrs. Davison answered the door. The moment she saw me, she was too emotional to speak, her eyes red. She grabbed my hand as if afraid I would run away and hurried me inside. Sir Mrs. Sterling is back. I followed her into the living room and saw Ethan. The moment he saw me, his eyes reddened. He rushed over and pulled me into a tight hug, his arms so strong they nearly broke my waist. "When are we going to City Hall?" I asked, my gaze empty. Ethan froze. "You really want a divorce?" he asked, his eyes red. "Yes," I said, looking down to avoid his gaze. "Get your documents." "Let's go," I sighed when he didn't move. Ethan didn't answer. He just pulled me upstairs and showed me the 2 walk-in closets he had prepared for me. They were overflowing with all kinds of luxury goods, so full they couldn't fit another thing. "You can move back in today. From now on, you can buy as much as you want, whatever makes you happy," Ethan said, forcing a cheerful tone. I said nothing, just looked at him quietly. Ethan couldn't stand the way I was looking at him, like he was a stranger. He held my face and kissed me fiercely, trying to win me back his way, but I just felt tired. "Ethan, stop fooling around. Throwing a tantrum won't change my mind," I said coldly, pushing him away. He used to always say I was the one throwing tantrums. Now he was the one acting like a child. His eyes red, he hugged me again, his voice trembling. "I don't want a divorce. Vivian, whatever you want, I'll give it to you. Please don't leave me. I can't live without you. I can't stand a single day without you." Ethan started to cry as he held me. It was the first time I had ever seen him cry. "I really didn't do anything with Nina. I know everything she did to frame you and hurt you. I called the police. She's already been detained. I don't love her, I only love you. I can't live without you," he said, his grip tightening as if he were afraid I would disappear. I gently patted his back. His eyes lit up, thinking I had changed my mind. He leaned in and kissed my lips. "I'll cook for you tonight, okay? I learned how to make some of your favorite dishes from Mrs. D. Let's go. To City Hall." "No more delays," I said, ignoring his smile, my gaze firm. In this world, no one dies just because someone else leaves them. Chapter 18, I couldn't afford to gamble again. I couldn't bet on Ethan's love. After arguing with him all afternoon, I finally got him out of the house. But he tricked me, driving us around aimlessly until, by the time we reached City Hall, it was already closed. Seeing the closed doors, Ethan visibly relaxed. I shot him a cold look and turned to leave. "Since you're back, I should let my parents and yours know you're safe," Ethan said, grabbing my hand and taking out his phone to call them. I snatched his phone away. "Don't you dare say anything to my parents, or I'll make you regret it." The thought of my parents berating me over the phone made my head throb. "Fine, I won't. But you have to promise me one thing," Ethan pressed his advantage. "What is it?" "There's a fireworks show tonight. Will you come with me? If you still want a divorce after, I'll agree," he said, his voice soft, his usual arrogance gone as he pleaded with me. Hearing him agree to the divorce, I accepted without a second thought. Seeing how quickly I agreed, a flicker of disappointment crossed his face. That evening, Ethan was waiting for me outside my house, dressed in a black suit, his hair perfectly styled. He stood under a streetlight, his tall, striking figure impossible to miss. I had bought a small villa. It wasn't as big as the Sterling mansion, but it was more than enough for me. I threw on some casual clothes and went outside. "Get in," he said with a smile, opening the passenger door for me. I didn't look at him the entire drive. He drove to a scenic overlook and excitedly pulled me out of the car. Vivian, you've always wanted to see the fireworks, right? Come on, he took my hand and led me to the best viewing spot. I glanced at him and subtly pulled my hand away. Ethan's expression darkened. Vivian, I really had nothing to do with Nina. Her father was my mentor, and I was only kind to her because of him. I only love you. Can you understand that? He asked, sitting close to me and looking at me intently. Boom, a firework exploded in the sky. Let's just watch the fireworks, I said, not wanting to answer his question. I was wrong before. I was so wrong, Vivian. Can you please love me again? He asked, his eyes red as he took my hand again, seeing that I was still focused on the sky. I knew there was no public fireworks show tonight. I knew Ethan had arranged this. I used to beg him to take me, but he was always too busy. Now, here I was, but the excitement I used to feel was gone. The next day, Ethan really did agree to the divorce. But holding the divorce certificate, I didn't feel particularly happy. Ethan, on the other hand, looked exhausted, as if he hadn't slept all night. I didn't dare look back at him. I just went straight home. I thought that would be the end of it, but he started following me. Every time I left the house, he was there. Vivian, where are you going? Can I give you a ride? Ethan, dressed in casual clothes, approached me with a bright smile. I glanced at him and frowned. Don't you have work to do? It's fine, Vivian, you don't have to worry about me. I've already arranged everything at the company, he said, blushing. I'm not worried about you. Stay away from me, I snapped. Okay, he said obediently. He took 2 steps back. For the next 2 weeks, Ethan followed me everywhere. The clients I met with for my design work would see him and immediately offer to pay double for my designs. Ethan was a well-known figure in Riverton. They were all trying to get on his good side, but I couldn't take it anymore. Get lost or I'm calling the police, I finally yelled at him. Ethan was clearly stunned. His dark eyes dimmed and his lips trembled as if he were about to cry. I'm sorry. This time, he really left. He didn't show up again. Chapter 19, after that, every time I closed my eyes, I would see his face, on the verge of tears. Guilt and remorse kept me from sleeping well, but I had to admit, I was a little unsettled without Ethan around. At night, I would find myself staring at the streetlight where he used to stand, waiting for me with a bouquet of roses. But now, he was gone. There was a constant tightness in my chest. One day, I went out to discuss a clothing design with a client. Afterward, I happened to run into Leo Fielding. We went to a new restaurant together. I wanted to treat him to a meal to thank him for his help before. Vivian, I heard you got divorced? Leo asked hesitantly as he cut his steak. I looked up at him and nodded thoughtfully. In that case, would you consider me? Leo asked. Huh, I paused mid-chew, stunned. I looked at him and seeing his serious expression, immediately laughed. Senior, you shouldn't joke like that. Leo smiled, but it was a bitter smile. Okay, no more jokes, he said quietly. I nodded. But Vivian, there's something I think I should tell you. I saw Ethan at the hospital a few days ago, Leo said, his expression turning serious. Hearing Ethan's name, I froze. What happened to him? I put down my fork and knife and stared at him. Leo looked surprised. You don't know? I heard from the staff there that he was in a car accident. It sounded pretty serious. Hearing this, I suddenly felt dizzy. Senior, I have to go. I grabbed my phone, rushed out, hailed a taxi, and headed straight for the hospital. When I arrived, I ran frantically to his room, only to see a figure on the bed covered with a white sheet. My eyes welled up with tears that streamed down my face. I stumbled toward the bed, my legs giving out as I collapsed beside it. Ethan, how could this happen? You can't be dead. A heart-wrenching pain made it hard to breathe. Tears streamed down my face as I sobbed. You're not allowed to die. I don't want you to die. I was crying uncontrollably. Vivian, a voice called from behind me. I turned, my eyes red, and saw Ethan standing there with a bandage on his head. Who's this? Why are you crying so hard? He asked, confused. Just then, a nurse rushed in, looking apologetic. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I made a mistake. Mr. Sterling's room is next door, 316. At her words, Ethan's face lit up. Vivian, you came to see me? The emotional whiplash was too much. I scrambled to my feet and walked out, but the tears wouldn't stop. Ethan saw this and quickly pulled me into a hug. Don't cry, I'm fine, see. Don't be sad, he soothed. Who's worried about you? Don't touch me. I hit him hard in the chest, but he grunted in pain and sweat beaded on his forehead. I froze, then quickly helped him back to his room. After the doctor bandaged him, Ethan's condition stabilized. "How did you get into a car accident?" I asked, annoyed. "I wasn't paying attention when I left your house that day and got hit. I was planning to come find you after I recovered." "I didn't expect you to come see me," he said with a smile, leaning in closer. "You were worried about me, weren't you? You even looked me up." "I did not. My senior told me," I said, pushing him away. Ethan's smile froze. "You're back with that first love of yours." Chapter 20, Vivian, I won't allow it, Ethan exclaimed. "Who do you think you are? Who are you to allow or disallow anything?" I scoffed. "Who am I? I'm your husband." Ethan looked extremely agitated. He sat up, ignoring his injuries, and grabbed my hand. "Ex-husband, not husband, and stop moving around, you'll pull your stitches," I sighed. "We're going to remarry." I ignored him and checked the time. "Are you hungry? I'll get you some food." Ethan's face lit up. "Yes, I'm hungry," he said with a small laugh. For the next few weeks, I visited the hospital whenever I had free time, taking care of Ethan until he was discharged. I drove him back to the Sterling mansion. The moment Mrs. Davison saw me, she rushed over, beaming. "Ma'am, you're back. The house has been so empty without you. It's so good to have you back." "Yes, it is," Ethan agreed. I ignored Ethan and took his things to the bedroom. When I walked in, I was stunned. The room was exactly as I had left it. Ethan had only been using his half of the closet. I snapped out of it and was about to leave when Ethan pulled me back. He closed the door, pinning me against it, and wrapped his arms around me. "Vivian, are you really with Leo Fielding?" he whispered. He asked me this every day, and I never answered. Seeing that I couldn't break free, I sighed. "No, I'm not, so let me go." Ethan let out a soft laugh. I knew it. "The person you love most is me." "And who do you love most?" I asked, pushing him away. "You, of course." "Me?" I couldn't help but laugh coldly. "You painted a portrait of roses for Nina, you gave her a custom-designed dress, and when the studio was on fire, you saved her. You call that loving me most?" "Who said that rose painting was for Nina? I painted it for you. That dress was designed for you too, but she must have seen my sketches and had one made. I couldn't stop her. And during the fire, I was trying to save you, but Nina grabbed my leg. If I had kept struggling with her, I wouldn't have been able to save either of you, so I had to get her out first. But it was all my fault. And the incident with Nina at the sea? I'm sorry, Vivian, I should have trusted you. I know none of this makes up for it, but I really don't want to lose you," he said, his eyes turning red. I looked at him, still unable to trust him. After all, he had despised me since we were children. He disliked everything I did. Even without Nina, he wouldn't have loved me. I couldn't believe his words. If it weren't for Auntie Alina, we probably would have never had anything to do with each other. "Ethan, think carefully. Do you love me, or is it just because of her dying wish?" I asked. Ethan had always been handsome and a good student, a heartthrob to everyone else. He was 2 years ahead of me, and every girl who saw him fell for him. But they quickly lost interest after getting to know him. Ethan was cold and distant with everyone, including me, and he was particularly strict with me. In high school, when he found out I had lunch with a male classmate, he immediately told my mom I was dating too young and that she needed to put a stop to it. I got a lecture from my mom because of him. He was also very invested in my studies, tutoring me whenever he had free time. He was a big reason I got into a prestigious university, but he never said an extra word to me. He would leave as soon as the tutoring was over. It seemed he got addicted to managing my life. When he heard from my mom that I had a crush on Leo Fielding, he was in the middle of a business deal abroad but bought a ticket and flew back immediately. I still remember how out of breath he was. He said Leo and I weren't a good match. Chapter 21, I was furious at the time, but he was right. Leo and I weren't a good match, so I never confessed my feelings to him. Later, when Alina fell gravely ill, I stayed at the hospital to take care of her. One day, she suddenly took my hand and placed it in Ethan's. "Vivian, my only wish is for you and Ethan to get married." My first instinct was to look at Ethan. I knew he didn't like me and thought he would refuse, but instead he just said, "Okay, we'll get married." After that, I tried to talk to Ethan about it, but he seemed to be avoiding me. He wouldn't answer my calls or texts and only reappeared on our wedding day. We got married in a hurry. Seeing us married, Auntie Alina passed away not long after. After that, Ethan and I lived together for 3 years. After spending some time together, I discovered that Ethan was much gentler and more considerate than he appeared. I fell hopelessly in love with him, even more intensely than my crush on Leo. Back then, all I wanted was to be with him all the time, but I never once heard him say he loved me. I pulled myself out of my thoughts and looked at Ethan. I needed to know if he truly loved me. Of course, I love you most. I've liked you since we were kids. Why else would I have married you? Ethan asked, a flicker of confusion in his eyes at my question, but then he answered with utmost seriousness. With that, he reached up, cupped my face, and leaned down to kiss me. The person I love most is Vivian, he said, his voice husky after the kiss, his eyes glistening with tears. I was moved. I stood on my toes and kissed him back. His pupils dilated, and he scooped me up and carried me toward the bed. Ethan kissed me urgently, like a man starved for affection. My body went weak, and I pressed my hands against his chest. "Is your injury okay?" I asked, glancing at the bandage on his abdomen. "It's fine. It's already healed," he said, breathing heavily as he continued to kiss me and unbutton his shirt. My heart was pounding the whole time. In the afternoon, I woke up from a deep sleep and saw Ethan sleeping beside me. I carefully got up and lifted the covers to check his injury. Seeing that the wound hadn't reopened, I breathed a sigh of relief. I was covered in sweat and felt sticky, so I went to the bathroom to take a shower. But halfway through, I heard Ethan's voice. "Vivian, Vivian, where are you?" He sounded frantic. Afraid he would run out of the house without getting dressed, I quickly yelled, "I'm in here, stop shouting." The shouting stopped. Hearing him calm down, I turned on the shower to continue, but the bathroom door opened, and Ethan walked in and wrapped his arms around me. "I thought you had left," he said, his voice low and laced with a hint of grievance. "Vivian, please don't leave, okay? I'll listen to you from now on. Let's get remarried." Standing there naked, my face slowly turned red, and soon my whole body was flushed. I clenched my fist and punched him in a spot that wasn't injured. "Who told you to come in?" Ethan grunted in pain, but he didn't leave. Instead, he turned up the water pressure. "We're husband and wife. Let's shower together," he said, growing bolder. He filled the bathtub and sat down, pulling me in with him. He wrapped his arms around my waist and kissed my neck. "Vivian, do you love me?" he whispered. He asked the same question he had repeated a dozen times already. "Yes." "Love who?" he pressed. "I love Ethan," I said, resigned. Ethan gently tilted my chin to the side, leaned in, and kissed me, his eyes locked on mine. "And I love Vivian." Ethan loved Vivian most, and Vivian loved Ethan most.